Hey Luis, how's it going? This is a critique of your stuff for this week. Thanks for putting this in. I see the extra reference in here. Let's talk about that during class so I can understand what kind of commentary you want on that stuff, and you can fill me in a little bit more of the background of what that is. Maybe it's in the notes or in the comments. It is not. So I will just focus on this animated piece that we have in progress and start looking at this piece like little bit by bit. Okay? So let's start with the beginning chunk.
Dad loves superheroes.
So I'll stick with this. This is kind of a large chunk.
Dad?
Okay, so coming into this, we got like nothing going on. So we need to like have something in the first like 15 frames or whatever of whatever it is. So this dad love, we need to show thinking on her happening, or like a welling up of frustration or something. And I don't think we need like huge big movements, but we do need some kind of expression change happening in the face or the brows or the eyes. It would be nice to see like a small, like maybe head tilt thing. It depends on what you want to say coming into this shot with this character. Like, is there frustration welling up? Are they processing what was just said before they like say this thing? But anyways, so we need some keep alive in the beginning here, something like to get us into the shot, unless the shot starts on frame 16 and this is just like head like a handle or head and tails on the shot. But even if it is just head and tails, so you can adjust the edit, you still need some kind of keep alive in here. All right, moving on to the movement part.
Dad?
So this dad is really big. Like if I'm watching the torso movement here on this dad, it's equally as big as this one. So you kind of have to figure out your phrasing. Like, is this...
Dad loves superheroes.
It feels like from the read, Dad loves superheroes. Like love is the big thing. And you're doing this big arm gesture. So I think we need to like chill out this dad thing, right?
Dad?
And here it's like, Dad, what are we saying with this arm throwing forward and this chest stuff? Is kind of like, it doesn't have a lot of clarity for me about what this is. So what would I suggest to like move this forward?
Dad?
If it's like Dad, we're talking about Dad, you know, it could be more of like a surprised thing here to say like, you know, if this is our attitude to come in, and I'm not going to have the perfect solve for this, I'm sure. I would like to see maybe a little bit more relaxed arms out of this thing, because it looks like we're already in a pose to react to what's being said. But I guess that's where we're coming in, so never mind. Silly me. So I should be doing this drawing earlier at the beginning. Sorry, I thought I was. So I'll delete that second drawing. Sorry for the misuse of time. All right. So let me get rid of this. This isn't so bad because maybe this is where we're going. So I can just stamp this as like where we're headed with this thing. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this gesture on Dad should be smaller, and it feels like with the way the read is to me, I'd have it be more of like a surprise. Like, are you sure like we're talking about the same person? Like Dad? And maybe that's just getting from here to here. It's just like a little rotation back in the chest. Maybe it can be even like a little an adjustment of the center eye line. Like maybe not like that. Let me think. Yeah, maybe we can get it done with like an in-between here. Like one of the gestures that I like when something's like, what? Is like you kind of pull the chin in. and then it like dips the eye line down. It's almost like a mini take, you know what I mean? But we wouldn't want to do too much crazy stuff with the torso here. Like keep it more reserved because our big torso movement is coming later, right? But the path for the chin, and it would probably be lower than this. I think I drew it too high. And again, I don't want to do like drawings and say match these drawings, but the idea is that the chin goes down and up in its arc. Like what? Like it's almost like pulling back. I don't think you need much more than this. What? Dad? Who? We're talking about the same dad? You know, that kind of thing in that phrasing. Much smaller, more contained. And this one, you know, this can also be a slight down on the shoulders, a slight down on the cog here. And then here we're like going up and back. So here we're starting forward. So the cog, you know, arc is going to be a little bit like this. Like, are we even talking about the same person kind of gesture? That'd be my suggestion for that. But what you have now is equally as big, and it really is competing a lot with the second line because this feels as big as this almost. This is a little bit bigger with the arms and the shoulders, but I feel like, you know, you gotta make sure that when you're designing like an acting piece, that what we're trying to do is vary up the rhythm of how things play. Like sometimes things are shorter and sometimes things are sharper. And also you want to play with the variety, the variance, like how much move are we doing here? Are they a bunch of like little short moves? And then when something big happens, we want to show like a big move. And even on those big moves, we may want to end those big moves with like a shape change, which is kind of an abstract way to think about stuff, but as you're moving forward, it's always good to kind of like plan this stuff out. All right, so when these shoulders raise up, they look really huge and separated from the body. So I don't know if it's possible to scale like the distance from here to here to like bring that in. I know if you move it, maybe it doesn't work quite right, but see if you can scale it in that direction so we get like a little bit better deformation going on in those shoulders. But also what's happening here is like we're raising up the shoulders and I'm watching the movement of the hands. Like the hand here on the left goes out and then it jumps in. So I question the spacing on that, you know what I mean? A spacing that I would think is probably more likely to happen on this. Oops. Because when we start to raise up the shoulders here and here, I'll just talk about the spacing on this one. Well, I'll talk about it here. You know, maybe we see just a tiny little bit of movement, but it should be inward movement because as this shoulder raises up, this distance is getting shorter, right? So it should like pull on the hand to make that a little bit shorter. And then maybe we don't need this big of a move here. Maybe this is still like kind of trailing a bit more over here. I don't know, without ghosting turned on. Again, you don't have to follow these drawings, please don't. I don't know that this is like, it's hard for me to like theory craft all the perfect poses and spacing and everything. I'd have to get in there to like really look at it and work through it. But something like this kind of makes more sense to me, spacing wise. And then we're bringing the hands up here. I think you would need to have it hang out here for a beat. It would be nice to see the knuckles here on these fingers and stuff. You know, to have it be more of like a back of the hand thing. And it needs to like kind of stay in this position. If this is the up, we don't just want to hit it up and then start going down immediately, right? We can kind of achieve this like through a drag pose, you know, where the back of the hand's getting flatter to camera. where you can start moving the elbow and arm down and shoulders down. But then it almost is like a held thing, but we're still getting some rotational difference in the hand to like really emphasize it. And then here I would think that you'd want at least a hint of a drag and stuff before we like fully resolve and relax these hands open. Like here and here, you know. So here the hands would be maybe opening, maybe the fingers are still a little bit closed. I don't know. I know that you shot reference of this stuff, so I'd also refer to your reference to kind of see how it looked. It'd be nice to keep this stuff in frame because you're fully in charge of the camera and everything. You know, even when I step through that like flows a little bit nicer. I'm not sure how it would look in real time or whatever. But anyways, let's get back into the thing.
Superheroes. Dad loves superheroes.
So I really like this like coming forward and popping up here. I would love to see you precede this more with the chest even a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like lean forward into this a little bit more. I think that that's going to really make this. I mean, it's already good. It's just like a plussing note because here it's like I see the cog going down, which is great. And I see like the head's going forward and the neck's going forward to support that. I would just also rotate the front of the chest going forward a little bit. Like if this is where the button is on the shirt, maybe we just bring the button down to like here or something just to support that motion in the chest. And then because here it's like you're rotating the chest back, which is great. But if we rotate the chest forward and then back, it's going to really make that great. Punch it up. So all the notes too that I said for this side, of course, apply to this side. That hand as well. You know what I mean? I feel like the fingers too, like you can really do more with the fingers. Like this feels like maybe it's just the same key on every pose. And it would be nice to like get the fingers animated, or at least get the keys on the fingers worked out at this stage before you go into spline. I know you're already kind of into spline. But I think it's easier to work this stuff out in spline or in stepped than it is to like kind of retcon it. You know, we're getting like a huge elbow pop over here on this arm. So that's something you want to think about your spacing on the hand that's causing that and how you want to resolve that.
Superheroes. Dad loves superheroes. Dad loves superheroes. Dad loves.
Okay, let me see how these hands are resolving that arm
Dad
movement.
loves superheroes. Dad loves superheroes.
Okay, so that's cool. Dad loves superheroes. So we come out of this and we're kind of like living in this pose for just a beat, which is cool. I'm okay with that. I wish that this was a little bit more up on screen. Maybe the whole character needs to be raised up a little bit so we can keep these hands on screen. Or maybe it's more of just like raising up the hand position. But then when we go from here up to here, we get no time to like live in this pose. And I think it also feels kind of like floaty or spliny going from here to here. So maybe, you know, we go into here and live in that pose or in that ballpark. I'm not saying like zero movement, but have it be almost like held until wherever the previous one is, you know, just like tiny keep alive motion. And that way we can spend less time going up to like wherever we're going to be here and hold this pose a little bit longer. That might help get some of the swimminess out of it. Hopefully that makes sense what I'm saying.
Dad loves superheroes. Dad loves superheroes. Dad loves superheroes. Dad loves superheroes.
Yeah, I wouldn't. So I like this head motion that you have going on, where I said like you're leaning with the crown and you're like pulling out of it before the body's fully pulled out of it. That's great. But you overshoot and come back, and then everything seems to still be going back slowly. So I would probably just go as this into an ease in instead of an overshoot and back. I would just keep it like eased into that pose.
Heroes. Dad loves superheroes.
Okay, cool. Let's move forward. I don't want to spend too much time on little details. I want to focus on the bigger picture.
He believed in them. He believed in them. He believed in them. He believed in them. He believed in them.
So I like what you got going on here, but this arm gesture again feels to be almost in competition with the previous arm gesture that you had. Like it's just...
Dad loves superheroes. He believed in them.
So maybe we can just make the range of that like a little bit smaller. It's going from it's like pumping fists, right? He believed in them, which is fine. So I would just keep them up higher, because that's another way we can keep them in frame. Keep them like kind of more relevant and stuff to say, like, you know, if this is like a little sharp movement, believed, I don't know that you need like a ton of distance traveled there. And that way it's like, everything isn't emphasized at 10. You know what I mean? Like this maybe is a way to turn it into more like a... So let's see, we're going from here maybe to something like here. I don't know the exact what you want to do, but that might be enough. I don't know. This might feel a little twinned, so that's always something to fight against. It's just getting a little bit of variety in pose between the two limbs, even though the quality of the motion and movement is identical. There can be little differences in like how you pose each arm that kind of get it out of that twin zone.
Dad loves superheroes. He believed in them. Dad loves superheroes. He believed in them. Dad loves superheroes. He believed in them.
Yeah, cool. I really like this torso and cog movement of going up, coming down. I feel like that works well. That's nicely done. So I will move on.
These are not heroes. If they were...
These are not heroes.
These are not heroes.
Cool.
These are not heroes.
Cool. I'd love to see some more breakdowns on this head shake that she has here, because we just get... Oh no, there's a couple tiny breakdowns in there. I'd like to see more, like have this be a little bit more resolved before moving into spline with this, or maybe it is into spline and those are somehow like artifacts of the spline. Because this is a really big spacing, you know. Maybe you're just planning to go right to spline. But this eye pose looks like, here it looks like she's looking here. Here it looks like she's looking down here. So every time you do a head adjust, you're going to have to like reposition your eyes to make it feel like you're looking in the same spot. If this is like our target here, then we need to like keep that target in mind. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so overall, let me start with the core.
These are not heroes.
Cool. So yeah, this like left and right on the torso to go with the nodding, I don't I don't think that is, it doesn't feel mechanically correct. What I would do here on your core is not do the rotation with the head. But instead, you know, here she's doing, like we go from this to this, like we're rotating backwards, right? But then we have another pose here where she doesn't continue that rotate backwards momentum, and then we rotate backwards again. So this is in a state where it's hard for me to know like what exactly is going on or how to critique it. But what I would say is, you know, here instead of rotating, we can start describing the backwards movement if that's starting here. If you want it to start here, that's fine. But maybe you can put in some in-betweens and stuff where we start the rotation backwards moment, you know, with more accurate spacing. And then here it's like this big, okay, let me see what's happening.
These are not heroes.
Cool. So yeah, it's just hard for me to track. And then she like comes forward kind of simultaneously with the hand. You know, like here we have an instance where the hand is moving and the torso isn't moving. So this doesn't like feel like a fully resolved pose to me. It's just like a partial or limited posing. And then here, so anyways, we got some weird stuff going on with the thumbs and the hands going through the comic book. Yeah, maybe I'll wait on this sections before, like when you get it more fully like resolved. But what I would do is, just as a bigger picture thing, instead of looking at the minutia of poses and stuff, is when she goes back to slap the comic book, you know, we want to feel the rotation and the torso back to whatever degree feels appropriate, right, for this. And then, you know, the hand starts before the torso starts to like return to like your, wherever we're going with this slapping torso, right? So if this is the torso on the slap, you know, do you want the torso, these are the questions, like how do you in between this? Do you want the torso to precede the hand? Probably not, because that would leave the hand back. You probably want the hand to go first and the torso to follow along second. So, you know, here you have the hand moving a lot. So if the hand's going from here to here, right, that's cool. But we should also see the torso start at least making the trip forward in that rotation a little bit. You really want to work this stuff out in your step blocking so that you don't have to like figure this all out when you're in spline mode, that you've like thought about it or whatever. But yeah, we also probably want a drop in the cog to show that there's like some kind of weight shift happening and stuff. Dragging the crown of the head is going to work great once you get this torso motion in here. And then, you know, it would be nice to see after the comic book gets slapped here, like this is where your torso is, but then it locks instead of continuing forward a little bit, which, you know, it has a lot of mass, it has a lot more mass than the hand. It would be nice too that when you go up to this pose, that the comic book is in whatever position you need it to be in for the slap to happen, so you're not bringing the comic book to the slapping hand, but it's more about the slapping hand coming to the comic book. And that way when the hand hits the comic book, you can show the comic book like yielding in space to look like she hit it with some force, because otherwise you don't really get a sense of that, you know what I mean? Where if the comic book was here before the hand reaches it, then you show that it's being pushed backwards by the hand. You get a nice sense of the force that was imparted to it. And here it's almost like she slaps it out of her hand. So instead of such a huge motion, after she hits it, you know, she could like drop it a little bit after that, but it should, I don't think it should like she's not like punching a baseball glove or something maybe. Then the hand after the slap goes right back up without any in-betweens between here and there. So I'd love to see that. I'd love to see in-betweens on how you're planning on get that torso back up there. Like what's your plan there?
Heroes.
It's like just kind of popping back into place, and so I can't like evaluate your spacing or the timing or the in-betweens or anything. But I will move forward to see if there's any more further resolved sections.
If they were, your father would still be. These are not heroes. If they were, your father would still be. These are not heroes. If they were, your father would still be. These.
Yeah, so I feel like we're again like doing maybe a bigger antic on father.
If they were, your father would still be here.
And then be here feels smaller, but when I listen to the quality of the audio,
if they were, your father would still be here.
Be here feels like the bigger antic in the line. You know what I mean? So maybe you want to do something like this for your father, where it's more like in the shoulders and a little bit in the torso, and then you do this big arm gesture for be here. You know what I'm saying? So I may just kind of like want to reverse these two based on the quality of the audio reading.
Your father would still be here.
But I'll wait. That would be my suggestion for like big picture stuff. I'll wait to get into like quality of motion stuff till you get more breakdowns and timing and spacing and more like things for me to actually like see. I would still encourage you to keep building in your poses and stepped here and like really thinking through offsetting all the parts of the body and how they relate to each other.
If they were.
Before you just go into spline stuff. But I know that you know that.
Dad loves superheroes.
Because then like something like this I think would feel a little bit more resolved and solid than now we're in like Splineville. But anyways, I look forward to seeing this progress. And next week, yeah, I know that you were out, so I can, if I find the recording of the Zoom, I will send it to you. Otherwise, we're going to talk about phoneme shapes and how to approach all that next week in class. All right, have a good one, Louis.